What happened to the
Yeah.
gavel? There we go.
Oh, tēnā
That's
koutou
made it
katoa.
official.
Tiri, Councillor Richard. All right. Tēnā koutou katoa. He tino mahi atu kia koutou I hui mai, I tēnei rā. Nā tui nei mai hara mai. So welcome everybody. I believe we've already had our karakia for the morning at a previous meeting. So we can go straight on from that. But just a welcome to councillors, Mayor Andy, to our team, the staff, to our public forum, welcome, all three of you, no mai hara mai, and also to those people that are online. Welcome to the Policy and Planning hui for Piperi. We're going to start off with apologies, and we have one apology received from Councillor Loudon. No one else?
No, nothing else has come through just
Right, you can move on a second for that.
you need a mover and a seconder.
So mover, please. I'm happy to move a seconder. Councillor Duncan, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora. We're going to go straight into our public forum. And I'd like to invite Adam and Jody from KPA to the table. Just at the bottom here.
Right front and centre.
There's room for two.
Room for two.
So just a bit of an explanation about how this process works. You have 10 minutes to present. There's an opportunity for questions. The councillors can ask you questions. However, if you go right to 9 minutes, that means you've only got 1 minute. So I'm just letting you know. We do have a timekeeper, and she'll let us know once we get to about 8 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah.
Anyway, welcome.
No, cheers. Well, firstly, kia ora koutou katoa. I do know some of you in the room, but for those that don't know me, my name's Adam Decker, and I'm a managing director of a company called KPA Properties. Firstly, I'd like to thank His Worship Andy, councillors and council staff for the opportunity to speak today. KPA Properties is a locally owned and operated company which primarily develops land and manages the building of affordable new homes. We own a number of properties around the region, including 3 parcels of land in Bulls of varying zonings and in varying stages of the property development process. We've been procuring parcels of land in and around the Manawatu for over 22 years. This includes a very successful one of late, a 32-lot subdivision completed in Fielding in 2019, of a very similar nature to what we intend to do and would like to do in Bulls. We caught up with Craig Pocock, which was great last week, where we discussed the future of Bulls, the collaboration of KPA Properties and the Rangitikei District Council in support of the growth of the Bulls community. This was a refreshing and productive conversation where Craig provided great insights for us to consider when making further decisions around our plans for development in throughout Bulls. We hope to also have provided Craig with information in support of his research from a developer's point of view. So I think we both bounced off each other very well with Jody's input, and we think that was quite a successful time. And yeah, it was great that we were able to be invited to speak to that. Today I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the board directors in response to the Rangitikei District Council's proposed Plan Change 3 for urban growth. KPA Properties is the landowner of identified growth area, which I'll call Bull 03, BUL03, at the end of Flower Street in Bulls. KPA Properties is also the landowner of adjoining residential land to the south between Flower Street and Johnson Street, as well as to the northeast off Bridge Street. We purchased these 3 parcels of land in 2020 and 21 with intentions to develop it, as we saw great potential in Bulls as a desirable central lower North Island location that we could forecast growth occurring in. For a lot of reasons, both with Ohakea being central with, the growth of the Rangitikei District Council, Martin and we currently hold a resource consent for 88 new residential greenfield lots within our Johnson Street to Flower Street development, which been working on for some time and is set, poised, ready to go. It was exciting to hear about the part of our rural property being in the proposed plan changes, our intention was always to propose this to council to allow us to develop it into residential sections in the future. In preparation for this meeting, we've put together a conceptual plan, which is on the screen. So the large portion on the right showing that housing development we own, which is access currently off Bridge Street, and the further development in the road link, which is part of the Bull 03. You'll notice that our adjoining Bridge Street property is otherwise landlocked for residential sections should the secondary area not be rezoned. So currently, the larger area we purchased with the intention to develop, but set alongside, connecting to those other roads. This means that by rezoning the Bull 03 to residential, we could not unlock this area, but also develop the additional residentially zoned site in Bridge Street, thus creating upwards of 42 sections. This subdivision, which we reference as stage 2 to our developments, will also be hugely complemented by our neighbouring subdivision, stage 1 between Johnson and Flower Street. Alternatively, the already residentially zoned 2.3 hectare Bridge Street property is unlikely to be developable due to its access off State Highway 3 being unsafe for this number of properties. We believe this would be a disappointing outcome for the Rangitikei District Council and would go against the growth plan for the Bulls community. I'd like to add that our Bridge Street property is very visible from the State Highway 3 entrance into Bulls, which we believe alongside George Street will continue to increase the beautification of this once underwhelming entrance into Bulls. We'd like to acknowledge that while part of the Bull 03 parcel is identified as a potential flood zone area under the 1 in 200 year flood maps, when the Tutanui stream flooded in June 2023, I personally walked the entire site at its worst to investigate the effects of this flooding on our land. I found the site to be unaffected by the flooding, regardless of its proximity to the stream. I have video evidence of this day that can be provided on request. It is in my professional opinion that any potential hazard in this regard can be mitigated through civil construction works and landscaping. We've also spoken, funnily enough, with the Tricker family who have been farming this land since World War I, and they have also stated that flooding is not an issue, or they have not seen flooding as an issue in their proposed BUL or Bull site, 03 site. KPA Properties are also landowners of the secondary rural title adjoining Bull 03, which has not been identified under this plan change. I would like to mention that we are open to the incorporation of this area into any potential new subdivision for the purpose of mitigating stormwater issues or in any other way that this area may be able to support the development of our surrounding land and the wider community of Bulls. In fact, we're already in discussions with the Rangitikei District Council and the developer of George Street and will likely be assisting to mitigate the stormwater issues related to the George Street subdivision as part of our design, which I know is quite familiar with. In direct response to Craig Pocock's recreation and open space network survey and analysis for Bulls, it is important to note that KPA Properties and its directors are favourable of ideas to integrate small commercial blocks, public spaces amongst our subdivisions. This includes Haylock Park, which neighbours our resource consented development, as well as the potential for some of our rural block, which is currently less suitable for building residential homes. We believe that something like this could hugely benefit the community and further complement the abundance of new homes that we plan to build in this area, making it a much more desirable and practical location for residents. Myself and the other directors of KPA Properties also own well-known construction company Humphreys Construction, which you may or may not know. We've developed and own commercial land in Martin as well as Bulls and about to do the Bulls Motel. We also own architectural, prefabricated sheds, precast panel companies and a variety of commercial and development properties around the region. As a collective, we supply work for thousands of people throughout the wider region, which by undertaking these developments in Bulls will also involve further work opportunities for residents of Bulls and the wider districts over what we believe to be a 5 to 10 year project. In summary, KPA Properties is very much in support of the initiative and growth of the Bull 03 being rezoned to residential. We are impressed with council's proactive ambition to identify areas for urban development in order to future-proof the community. Should Bull 03 be rezoned to residential, this means KPA Properties will have the capability to add upwards of 130 new homes to the Bulls community, increasing the number of houses in Bulls by almost 15%. These homes will be of good standard, have all the benefits of new homes, such as being healthy homes, compliant, attractive, and generally enhancing the quality of living in Bulls. I would add to that, we do generally control the design of the homes. We do spec homes, so we control what's built and how it's built, which we think is a good thing as a developer. We don't let it just loose to everybody. We have introduced a rural outlook to several of our proposed sections, which we believe will be an attractive selling point to the large portion of our rural residents in the community. Sections will also be available in a variety of sizes, allowing them to suit a wider range of people and needs.
Aloha mai, Adam, just to say that you've got about a minute and 30 seconds.
Beautiful. All right, we believe it makes absolute sense from a growth perspective to rezone the Bull 03 to residential. As we are developers, we're keen and ready to go, and our intentions are very much in alignment with those of Rangitikei District Council. We've already completed a variety of feasibility studies on this area, including the viability of building homes on the land and market assessments to ensure our objective is in accordance with that of Bulls market. We're looking forward to the potential of assisting council and continuing with these studies for the rezoning of Bull 03.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Questions? And we're going to take maybe two.
Great.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw.
Just one question for the Bull 03. You're going to have access off Johnson Street where the gates are now or not? You're going to get in through Flower Street.
Not at this stage. Flower Street at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's a potential for that. So
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Councillor, thank you, Chair. Do you have any comment on Bull 01 or Bull 02 in your assessment of the overall plan? You've obviously focused on the land
that we own,
Yeah.
100%. Okay, so look, we are ticking a box. I know there's roughly 16 hectares which council recognised to be developed. With this sort of a link, it is a smaller portion, but it does create 40 plus homes. The two big areas, what you're talking about, look, I believe the numbers coming to Bulls over the next 5 to 10 years, that sort of an area would be extremely difficult to fill, with, I'm guessing, a lot of infrastructure and money to be put into that to accommodate that sort of growth. So look, yeah, my thoughts are, look, they're okay bits of land, but I believe you'd struggle to fill that over a shorter period of time, or your intention, the LTP.
I'm going to take one more question from
Thanks, Adam. If we rezone this, it aligns with the other rezonings that are currently in space, and the total number of new homes between what has already been zoned and this would be, is it 88?
Yeah, 88.
And
Yeah.
total between this one and the resource consented would be about 130 new homes.
Okay.
Oh, thank you very much
No worries.
for your presentation.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome to stay and stay for the rest of the hui. I believe that there's not going to be many questions from everyone, so but if you're welcome to stay.
Yeah, cheers, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before you move on, we have received an apology from Greg Moore, so if we could go back and receive that as well.
Okay, so, yeah, thank you. So we've received, for those that didn't hear, we've received Councillor Greg Moore's apology. His worship has moved that apology be received. Second, thank you. Councillor Sharland, all those in favour say aye. Moving on to conflicts of interest declarations. Everybody knows what that is, what their process is. If there's anything that comes up, please let us know. Confirmation of order of business. Everything's in order, so that's good. We're going to go back to confirmation of minutes from our previous hui. given that I was an apology, I'm going to be looking for those that were here to be able to move in second, but we can go through the minutes if people are happy to do that. Previous minutes. Can I leave that for you to do, Andy? You chaired that last meeting.
Yeah, I'm happy to move, but they were regarded as a true and accurate record if there's a second to that.
I'll second you.
Councillor Moore has seconded. His worship has. Oh. Sorry.
Wilson.
Sorry, old age.
Watson and Wilson,
What's
Wilson.
the W's.
the two W's? Apologies. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Right, kia ora. I can. Follow-up actions. Kezia.
Yes, I'm happy to take us through
Thank
the
you.
follow-up actions. There's just 3 actions sitting there, all with comments in them in terms of the materials around the Mulkai Bridge. The team have reported that any signs that we can remove easily will be removed as part of just general roading activities. In terms of the disposal of surplus lands policy, work has commenced on that under the lead of Mr. Calvin, with internal reviews currently being completed. So there is some work going on in that space. And then in terms of the IANS update, that update is provided as part of the regulatory update later on in this agenda.
Yeah,
Councillor
a question regarding the Mokai Bridge signs. Does that include that one on State Highway 1? That's just, it'll fall to bits on its own. Right.
State highways with us. Any other questions?
Can I just update, go
Thank
to
you.
that? With the sign that was on State Highway 1, I went to the then owners and asked that it either be removed or covered up because of the number of people travelling up to what was non-existent.
Yeah.
So it was covered, but ideally it should be removed.
Thank you, Andy. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Just for the accuracy of this report, item 2, disposal of surplus land, says CE to provide details, but I just heard you mention staff member Calkin's name. Is that in his space or is it in our CE space?
So
Item number 2.
through you, Madam Chair, the action was for the Chief Executive to provide detail on staff availability to complete that review. The context to that was that the committee was concerned that that review hadn't commenced yet. So the update is that Mr. Calkin is taking the lead in that review and that has commenced. So we have been able to.
Happy with that. That's what I heard. I was just looking that the assigned person may need to be changed just for future reference so we know who's taking the lead on. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions regarding this report? Can I have a mover, please, that the report follow-up action items from Policy Plan Committee meetings be received? Thank you, Councillor Duncan and Councillor Lambert is seconding. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Okay. Bear with my chair's report. Tēnā rangatira, tēnā koutou katoa. Te mihi kia koe mea, Andy, for stepping into the chair's role at our April hui. In a central government space, the number of new bills and that are being put out for public submissions or kaupapa where change is being sought seems to be never ending. Water, resource management, animal husbandry, regulatory standards and everything in between is mind-boggling. One may ask, when does it stop? The reality is it doesn't stop. We keep moving forward and continue to do our best. I applaud and encourage New Zealanders to engage in the system so that your voice is heard. Kia kaha Aotearoa. The crossover between local government systems and central government is an interesting space, and despite the best intentions of decision making that is made at local levels, this is often trumped by central government. What do? Haere tonu. Getting back to things at our local level, the work being undertaken on the proposed Plan Change 3 around urban growth is going to be a big topic on today's agenda. And I thank the staff for the research, relationships, discussion and kōrero that has been undertaken to get us to this point. Our economic wellbeing lead will be taking us through the economic wellbeing strategy and action plan, which steps us through how a diverse economy, vibrant district and healthy and sustainable businesses all contribute to a thriving rangitike with all players in the community acknowledged, There is, of course, still work to do, but we have a great starting point. Other areas that will see us receive updates include economic update, regulatory update, strategy plan development and review, policy and bylaw work program. I thank those residents that continue to be interested in what it is our council are doing, but also encourage those who may not have shown an interest yet to get involved and find out for yourself what this council is doing on your behalf. Finally, an acknowledgement to the hard work our staff are doing every day in whichever lane they may be working in. Trying to prioritise the myriad of kaupapa that come across their tables and the pressure that sits with them is not easy. But what I see as a councillor when sitting around the table is people committed to making a difference and doing the best they can do for the betterment of the Rangitike. Thank you, Carol, Arno and the team for your strong leadership with our team. My whakataukī, he kai kei aku ringa. This signifies the ability to create success by using one's skills and resources, which reflects into an individual's resilience. Puki te ora, Chairman. I would like to is there any questions? Thank you very much. I'd like to move my report to second, please.
We'll see.
Thank you, Councillor Charlotte. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Okay, right, moving right along, we're on to reports for decision. And we're going to get over to
Ms. Gower.
sorry, Ms. Gower.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
I'll take it that my report's been read, but I am going to go through a fair amount because there's a lot of information to process. And I think as we go through, I'm expecting questions and I'm expecting interaction. So we've been on this journey for a while, and most recently we had a workshop in May where we went through some of the technical reports. But just by way of reminder, today I'm seeking direction around which growth areas you did want to continue to pursue as part of this plan change. As we know, the purpose of the plan change is to provide for residential growth for the next 30-year period. We have focused, or council made a decision to focus in on Martin Bills and Mangaweka, and I did provide some context to that, but just a reminder that Taihape, Hunterville and Turakina are still areas that we have identified as needing to provide for growth as well, and anticipate that they will come back in the future as part of a separate plan change. We've had a range of technical assessments that are either largely complete or are complete now, and we did that workshop in May. I was going to move through this by area, so starting with Martin. I'm hoping that's people are comfortable with that. So I'm do a bit of like jumping through.
Thank you, Tiffany.
So is this number 3, discussion analysis of growth areas?
Yes,
Yeah.
so I would jump down to number 3.
Discussion.
Can I just make a comment that have been sent through to Tiffany from Councillor Loudon, and she will be taking him. We'll be having another conversation with him.
I will be having a one-on-one conversation to cover off questions that Councillor Loudon has put forward, and any information that I do share with him as a result of that, I will make sure is circulated to all of you. So we know that we've got multiple growth areas in Martin, and I listed there just as a reminder of what those growth areas are, and likely as well what approximately their land area was as well. I jumped down to just visually, that's what the layout is for the Martin growth area. So we have Mara 2 down the bottom, Mar 7 and Mar 1. And then when I say part, it's just the larger growth area is in yellow, but the part that we're looking at was red. And those 2 small parts were identified because there were larger challenges with the wider areas. So we focused in on the smaller parts as a potentially easy option or easier option.
Can I just ask a silly question? Can you just give me an idea roughly, but when you say part of MAR03, that's that little corner, but approximately what area is that?
2 hectares. So
Okay, just to give me an idea of what the full thing is again. Thank you.
So that information is just here. in your report under.
Oh, I see,
3.1.
yes, excellent, thank you.
Yep, sorry. So for Martin. I provided this information as a basically, I guess, high level comments on each of the technical assessments that we've had for the areas. I can go through it if that would be.
Just have one question, Madam Chair. It would be useful as we work through all of these areas to understand a number of them have either been already purchased or already purchased and part and parcel of a consenting process of some nature or inquiry. Would be useful to know whether there are any stages we should be aware of that when we consider this, even though this would effectively be a council initiated thing.
Yes. So for Martin, if we jump in there, this block here has been purchased by Dynamic A Development Limited, as has this one, which is part of Martin O2 and Martin O7 growth areas. No consent application has been received. They were exploring plan change options themselves, but obviously when they heard that our process was commencing, they're waiting to see whether council will look to rezone the land ourselves or whether they would pursue their own. In terms of other development, I'm not aware of any. I'm looking at Johan just in case anything else has come through.
And the 2 blocks, the 4 hectares and the 2 hectare block, the 6 hectare blocks, the reason for potentially treating them as a separate, with almost a subdivision within the plan change.
So I wouldn't say it's a subdivision within a plan change.
Yeah.
It's providing those landowners an opportunity. So this property down here, and then this portion of this property, they were effectively land that is flat, easily connected into our services, and wasn't affected by the flood hazard, which does, it doesn't show. I've got, sorry, this is the blue is actually the modelled flood area, but this is known to be a challenge in terms of flooding. It just hasn't been modelled. So effectively, those 2 smaller areas were singled out as just a good option. And at this stage, I'm unsure of landowners. I've given them the opportunity to provide their input, and I haven't had a support or otherwise comment from them.
Just a little question. On that map, could you just indicate roughly where the solar farms are proposed?
Yeah, sure. I'll have to zoom out. So solar farms are obviously on this side of town. So we've got one consented between Wales Line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got one consented in here, another proposed.
Yep.
Adjacent, another proposed across that hasn't been consented yet. And then further along, it's on Wellington Road, isn't it?
Yep.
So interesting, thank you.
Wellington Road in this area as well, quite a large one. Yeah. That is going through the EPA, the larger one, yes.
Thank you.
So, further question, Madam Chair. I mean, I have had a discussion with Tiff over some of this as in advance, but I think the questions are relevant. So, for instance, where you look at the extension Milne Street area that indicates water courses and so on. So, if we zone that, there would need to be the agreements with any developer around water retention or something like that.
Yep.
Irrigation.
So effectively what Anna was talking about this morning is its hydraulic neutrality. So any development would be required to manage stormwater in a way that they achieve hydraulic neutrality, which will mean on-site management of that. In terms of the waterways, which you can see some of them through here with the blue line. There's also a dam. This is a Horizons dam. This in here is part of a Horizons dam. Those need to be factored into the development, so they wouldn't be touched. It would make sense that they would design a development in a way that it was, I guess, conducive to the streams being
Yep.
factored into their design.
Any more questions? Or you can carry on if you carry on.
I'm happy to take questions if there are.
One for me, looking at these, Smart 01, 02, 7, 3, 4. What's the total of houses in there?
The total of houses, I could have looked it up.
Within Kui? I mean, if that was to all be developed, how many houses are we talking about?
I'd say far in excess of what we require.
That's what else, what I was getting to.
Far in excess. So
Far in excess.
effectively, what I highlighted in the report is the calculations I've done, and that's a good point for me to talk to it, is effectively in the community spatial plan, which you adopted in 2023, we had an aspirational growth scenario of 3 different scenarios. And that was around, I think it was 22 to 98 hectares of land was required for Martin. And it was looking at around 1,700 houses as a maximum from memory. The calculations that I have done, because the plan change will require a little bit more, I guess, analysis behind it. So I've used what you've adopted as part of your long-term plan 2024 to 34, which was 0.7%. And then taken that and applied it to the land. Added 30% for stormwater management and roads. And roughly what I've calculated you need is around 44 hectares in Martin of land that will produce around 800 houses.
Again, through you, Madam Chair. So as we look through these areas, we're presuming that the yellow areas transition from rural to residential.
Yes.
But if there are areas that are transitioning from rural living zone,
Yeah.
Will you make sure that we're aware of those as we go through this?
Yeah. So the only area that would be potentially transitioning from rural living would be this property here. That's the only one that is currently zoned rural living. The rest is all zoned general rural.
So that's indicated as part of MAR 04.
Yeah.
That one? Yeah. Thank you.
With a question, Chair, if I may.
Thank you.
So looking at these, and I'm focused, I understand your MAR 03 and 04 and the logics behind that.
Yeah.
Looking at all the rest of them, one thinks about connectivity and flow and transport and connections to network, which is quite detailed in the report.
Mm-hmm.
If you indicated to go further on some of this MAR 1, 2 and 7, which is a substantial block of land, potentially before that was put in place, there may be, or there is a likelihood that not all of that would be suitable in further of your investigations as you went further.
Yeah. And that was, I guess, alluded to in the fact that I would say 44 hectares is what I calculated as needed. There will be parts of those. So there is, for example, on MAR 07, this area here has been identified as a significant flora area. So you would need to discount that area. We've got the Martin fault line that comes through here, and you'd need to have a no-build buffer over that. So 44 plus a little bit more would be my recommendation to kind of account for some of those areas.
So subsequent, if I may, Chair, so looking primarily, I'm focusing on this MAR 07. There's a potential that you could continue to investigate that as one of the recommendations that we're looking at today is for you, an indication for you to carry on and investigate work. It may well come back and say, well, actually, this is a large piece of land, but only a very smaller part, 2 hectares, 4 hectares as per in MAR 03 and 04 may be the outcome of the further investigations if 07 was to be considered.
Yeah.
Okay.
Potentially. I would say some of the restrictions through MAR 07 will be around your water courses and FEMA.
And I'm sorry to ask another question, but it's directly to that. When we talk about further investigations of work to possibly end up in a situation where 07 again, is significantly reduced, if not all removed, how much work's involved in getting to that stage in the overall scheme of this?
So I guess it's how far you want to go. Effectively for Maro 7, aside from the Three Waters stuff, I wasn't anticipating much more work. What we've had done is ecology. It's told me the areas, and that's around the streams and that small area of bush in here. We can make some assumptions around, and I have made assumptions in terms of the lot yield for that, but it would likely be larger lots. So instead of 650, which I've accounted for the others, I've gone for 1,000 because of the land formation. So it's more undulating than flat. And I would imagine that a developer would want to work with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to remember what this is for. So all we are doing and the work that TIF is doing is to say, if there's ever pressure on development, where's the best place for that to go?
Mm-hmm.
So we're not going to get hung up on exactly where or how much of it will work. So what we're doing right now is to see how would the networks have to be adjusted? How would the treatment plants have to be adjusted? What would connectivity look like? So it's high level stuff of where residential development could potentially happen if there's ever a driver for it. And I think when we get to that stage, then it will be whittled down to what part of that property is actually developable. And that could be driven by the economic factors or environmental factors, whatever else it is. But it's too early to try and do that.
Yeah, no, if I can answer that question, the thing was saying, if we look at Bulls, Mangaweka, Martin, there's a substantial bit of work. And I'm trying to get to a point is, should we be pursuing all of these blocks of land if we are looking at it from a pragmatic point of view?
And so what I would say from a planning perspective, I've largely done the work for Martin. There's question marks over Bulls and to a lesser extent Mangaweka potentially, but question mark over Bulls is largely to do with the transport side of things, with the need to work with Wakutahi. The question mark for the only one for Martin is archaeology. Is something going to come out of archaeology? And at this point, on a preliminary discussion that I've had with Daniel Parker, he's not found anything to date that's flagging any red flags to him. The land and the work that we've done otherwise is what it is. My suggestion is you would zone the land. I would recommend an oversupply of land is rezoned or put forward for rezoning, but not a huge oversupply, because we're not going to master plan these areas. We're not going to figure out where lots and how lots are going to be developed. But it gives people the potential that, like you're saying, if some of that land is undevelopable, there's still enough that we're meeting our 30-year demand.
Thank you, Tiff. Andy?
Yeah, if I look at these lots and I take on board the comments, I think they're absolutely right. But to my way of thinking, that if you're going to do 07, you probably need to do 02 at the same time to allow for connectivity in terms of traffic. To have some sort of ring road type system and to be able to provide connectivity down Wanganui Road in terms of wastewater, water supply. So I would probably, my preference would be, and it'll come to votes later, would be to develop that side of town, but accepting the partial blocks of the other 6, rather than doing all of the stuff on the right-hand side. I'd go for a partial solution there.
Mm-hmm.
That would give us capacity probably for the next 20 or 30 years potentially.
Any other questions around this, or have you got anything else to add specifically around the Martin developments? Is there any other kōrero from councillors or any other staff who've got anything to say? All right, I'm sure we'll move on. Or have you got anything else to say about this?
All I would say is, just to clarify in terms of growth areas, is that the whole of Martin 07 that you did want to continue to pursue and the whole of Mar 02, or were you looking at reduced?
Actually, further to my earlier question on my head.
Just people can start looking at recommendations.
Okay. Thank you. We're going to just hold this for a second.
Yeah.
And just for 1 second, I'm just going to look at Boris on Trina.
So what my advice is procedurally is that you start working through recommendations 1 and 2. So recommendation 1 is receiving the report. Recommendation 2 is focused on Martin. Get that out of the way before moving on to the next area.
Thank you, Trina. Can we have a mover that the report be received, please? Thank you, Mayor Andy. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Member. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Right, now there's an ability for the discussion or for the decision making. So the recommendation 2 that's been put up, that the committee identifies the following growth areas to continue to be assessed by officers with the intention of proposing them to be rezoned to residential as part of proposed plan change 3 as being MAR 01 and or MAR 02 and or part MAR 03 and or part MAR 04 and or MAR 07. Delete as appropriate. Noting that if the finalisation of technical assessments raises any new issues that could influence the committee's decision making, then officers will bring this back for further consideration. Thank you.
I'll have to amend,
Yep.
if I may. I'd like to say it and or part MAR 02 and or part MAR 07.
So that's removing MAR 01.
Yeah, just going part MAR 07 and part MAR 02, leaving MAR 01, MAR 03 and 04 up there, but just adding the part into 02 and 07. And if that was to be accepted, I'd move that.
I tend to be in agreement here, but I think it is very useful if the councillors have a very clear pictorial view around what you're talking about. Because I don't want
That's helpful,
the risk of
yes.
someone getting this wrong.
Mhm.
We can draw lines.
Put it up and get down.
We'll change back the screens. Did we have a seconder?
Probably the second.
But before we,
Change it.
I want us to just have a look. So everyone's.
Are we able to get the document, sorry, Chair, the document that we have on our screens up there?
That's fine.
Yeah.
If we could get that up there, it's
Sorry.
possibly a bit visually better that we're all talking to the same image. That's the one.
So perhaps if the mover, Madam Chair, talk us through each one of those sections as to the motion. is
Thank you,
proposed.
Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, so thank you. So looking at MAR 01, which is particularly for those on lines, it's the area up Morganary Road. Buxton.
It's 2 Channel Road.
Oh, which one's the one off Morganary Road around the back of that there? What's that? That's 2, sorry. It's a little bit confusing. Anyway, MAR 02, that, if you read the report, has connectability and has the least number of challenges from what I could see. Or not as much as the other section, which is the Tutanuri Road section.
I would say that on par.
They're on par, but it's 07 crops up on a number of different areas. And I think if we have the ability to be part of, it enable us to still have through flow and connectivity to all of the parcels. That enables us to say, well, we've considered part of, and further in your investigations, it would identify that it's not practical to do so for a number of reasons, for hydrology or other wetlands and other matters. So I think the word part enable us to still push on and consider the greater scope of that area, but also enable us to reduce it from practicality points of view with not impacting on our desire for growth long term.
Anything to add?
Yeah, so, if you look at maybe so what would be proposing is that you continue investigation. Right, I'm not a proposer, but supporting.
He's voting
This one, and those two.
And I agree.
And that's what you're
That's
saying.
what I'm saying, but part of.
And this would be to allow continued work on that. It's work that if that's what your understanding is, that's my understanding as well as second.
So any questions from any other councillors around the table? Any more clarification needed? Councillor Wong.
I hear part of councillor Wilson's rationale for that, but is this going to be easier for the staff? Is that what we're trying to build? Is that's the direction you're pushing?
My understanding of it, if I could
Would
speak.
that satisfy? Would that make a difference to the staff to any extent?
Who would like to answer that question?
Were you asking in terms of,
Is
How
it
much
worth
would-
doing?
I mean, what I would say is for Maro 2 down here, obviously Maro 7, and for a large portion of Maro 1, we have supportive landowners who are interested in potentially developing.
Mhm.
I am obviously will take direction from council in terms of pursuing those.
Mhm.
And I can refine the areas potentially around if people were in opposition, or if there was a particular challenge that you were concerned about, I can look to remove that from my consideration. What it will do is this is still significantly more land than we require. And it does mean that through a plan change process, it will be challengeable. And I would imagine that there are likely to be a number of people who feel affected by this plan change who will potentially challenge it. Yes.
Councillor Wilson, did you have a question?
I think I'll speak to it when, as a right of reply, if we get to, I think that'll clarify what I think I'm seeking.
So there has been a recommendation that has been moved and seconded. Was there any changes getting made? I'll just go back to the changes
Yeah, we can go back then.
to the recommendation.
I have a question,
I just have just one clarification question. In terms of those two little park lots, the 6 hectares, have you got people outside of those 6 hectares actively involved in trying to obtain interest?
In terms of those, like
Yes.
part 4 and part 3, no one has approached me.
Yeah, okay, and I'll speak to it when I support the motion. Thank you.
Councillor.
Just on that, on what you said about people will challenge this because it's too much land. So it's roughly 150 hectares-ish from what I just looked at. And that includes 30% for roads and stormwater. Do you also, as a council, do you have to think about the fact that you're going to have, 800 houses and that they have to be provided with green spaces for the children, parks, setbacks, all that sort of thing? Is that all part of what you will put into that document to show that more land is needed?
For clarity, a couple of things. I'm not saying that people will definitely challenge it. I'm saying that there are likely to be people who have an interest in this plan change, and that if you are looking to rezone significantly more land than you need, then it is more challengeable through a process to make us test our need for that land effectively. The 44 hectares includes a 30% uplift for roads and open space. That includes
Which you need a very small one.
Yep. What it doesn't include is taking out land for streams that are existing, your ecological area in Maro 7, or that buffer zone for the fault. So 150 is significantly more than what is required.
And that would be noted when you put this forward.
When I build the Section 32 assessment of this, yes, I will be outlining what growth we are anticipating, what growth council has adopted through the long-term plan, and how it is supported, and how I've come to my recommendations around how much land is needed. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, did you have another?
I'd be using my right to reply if I was to speak again, Chair.
Can I just ask a question of clarification, just on the wording, to the mover and seconder? You've noted part Maro 2, that is just confirming Maro 2 is the Wanganui Road piece. That's the piece that you wanted the part in front of.
Actually, no, that's Maro 1, isn't it? Oh no, Maro 1's up there.
R1 is the Tudnoi Road.
Which one's Maro 7?
At the end of Long Street.
Yeah, so Maro 7, no, the Tootanui, the Wanganui Road one, I'm quite happy with that. It's the other two, I think, have some challenges to them.
Okay, so that
So
would
if
be.
we not got that around the right way.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Is it,
that's right.
are we all clear of what's Maro 1, Maro 2, Maro 7? Because then we can put together right there.
It goes 1, 2, 7, isn't it?
It goes, and I mean, thank Katrina for this.
It's
I didn't name them. Maro 1 is up top,
Yeah.
which is your Tutanui. Maro
Yeah.
2 is down bottom, and 07 came through
Well, that's the
submissions,
longest
which is
in
why
the-
it's called
Oh,
7.
okay, yes, I thought that was one.
Oh, I'm happy with the way that recommendation works.
Madam Chair, can I please go back to the map to make sure that we
Yes,
have
thank you.
absolute clarification?
That's a good idea.
Sorry.
I think I've got it right. Yeah, it
So-
does look a little bit confusing.
Where the dash line is.
Yeah.
This is Maro 1.
Oh, right, that's Maro 1.
Yeah.
That's one I get done.
That's Maro.
So that's Maro 1,
Yeah.
07 and 02.
Yeah, that's right.
So what we're saying is those three blocks carry on with it all and look at the parts.
Yeah,
of the other one.
Yeah.
Correct.
No, sorry, Your Worship, I would challenge that if we go back to the motion now. I just want to get this right. I think I can clarify it in part Maro 1, Maro 2, part 3, part 4, and part 7. Yeah, that's correct.
Clarification, that you understand that in Maro 2 that there are landowners that have expressed a desire for their land not to be rezoned.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
We're all crystal clear.
Yep.
Okay, well, we've got
That's one down.
a mover and a seconder, for this recommendation 2. So we'll put it.
I've got a right of reply.
I haven't spoken to the motion. I'm not sure he actually, neither spoke to the motion either. He asked a series of questions.
Look, I will speak to what we need to be really thinking about here is this is not happening next week. It's not happening next year. We had some earlier submitters this morning indicating some work that I've got which has got a 5-year vision to it. This in reality, if we're looking at this, is 10, 15, 20, it's 30 years out.
Yeah.
The reason for using the word part of is if you look at the reports in the documents that are been, there are challenges to varying different degrees on these bits of land. I didn't say which part. I simply used the word part because as the work continues on, some of those challenges may become less, some of those challenges may become more. And it means that we can work with part of those identified blocks. Now, I hope that I'm right in my assumption that it gives the staff a degree of flexibility to work within the spaces that I've identified. That's really ultimately what I'm trying to do, rather than them saying, well, part of this land is never going to work, but we've been told to go and work with this entire block of land. I want the staff to have the flexibility with their expertise and their understanding and the knowledge that will come as they work through the process to have a degree of flexibility, hence using the word part. We don't know what those parts will be, and there are several different things that are going to connectivity to waterways, network, infrastructure, roading, road upgrades, intersection upgrades, all those things may change where those parts are. I'm just trying to make sure there's a degree of flexibility for the staff to work with.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for that explanation and clarity for the rest of us.
Yeah, I'm in support of this. I think the opportunity to work with people that are interested parties at this stage also potentially removes some of the risk of people effectively acquiring just lands for the sake of long-term land banking, which is a significant issue throughout New Zealand. So we should, I think that the land is situated in an appropriate area and having closely associated blocks, it makes planning in terms of infrastructural upgrades far easier. So it's important.
Thank you, Randy.
If there's no other speakers, we can go right over the line.
Okay, so any other speakers for this motion, for the recommendation?
Question,
Councillor Wong?
if the mover rationale for this change to the recommendation is for added flexibility for the staff, and the staff has indicated that MA02 has some objections, would it not be a good idea to put part MRO2 as well for that thing, since that is actually where the objection lies, as we know?
Thank you for the question. I'm happy for Councillor Wilson.
If the committee is happy to have that word added to it, I think it still achieves what my original motion was looking to achieve. But I would seek some guidance from Tiffany if she's,
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
happy to have, if there was have that as an amendment or in addition to, I would still support the motion.
Well, my advice is that it's more of that with the approval of the mover and the seconder, that could be simply a change in here.
Yeah, because we haven't carried
So it doesn't have to be amended. Yeah.
So, mover and seconder, you're happy for us to make that change? But actually, before we do that, is there any other questions around the table? No?
You're asking the seconder if I'm happy. I'm accepting of it. I think that the word part, I take on board the mover's comments, but effectively the development, this is always going to be you're just asking them to investigate these blocks. There will always be parcels of the land that are not suitable, but it gives scope. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So now, if there's any other voters, if there's not, you go back to the original file.
Any other speakers? Or I'd ask the question, is anyone against the recommendation? No?
So back for the original file.
Right, back to Councillor Wilson.
Not required, Chair.
Right. That the committee, so I'm just going to read it out again, so we're all clear on this. That the committee identifies the following growth areas to continue to be assessed by officers, with the intention of proposing them to be rezoned to residential as part of proposed plan change 3, as being part MAR 01 and part MAR 02 and part MAR 03 and part MAR 04 and part MAR 07. Noting that if the finalisation of technical assessments raises any new issues that could influence the committee's decision making, then officers will bring this back for further consideration. This recommendation has been moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by His Worship the Mayor. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. We're going to move through to Tiffany. Back to you to take us through the bulls. Thank you.
So Bulls and the assessment of how much land I have assessed as being required was around 16 hectares. Are there any questions from the matters raised in the report up front? Otherwise I can go to the.
Thank you. Here's for the question. And if we can put the. We go through this part board first or put the map up, do you think?
I'll take direction. I'm happy to move through comments, or else I can work to the map.
Through the chair, just with these areas have been identified, even if we did below 3, is our infrastructure going to be able to handle it? Because we're talking about, 88 houses, isn't it?
So I actually have a question for, so GHD has done the assessment of our waters with Arno's team. And a question that I've actually just posed to GHD, but they haven't come back to me, is whether or not they actually included the approved subdivision for Johnson Street in their assessment, because I'm not sure that they did. I don't know if Arno had a view on that. No.
So is it you don't have a view or you don't know?
I don't know if they've included it or not. But I think it's regardless, it's similar to the comment I made earlier. It's really, this phase of the work doesn't affect that. When there is a requirement for development, we will work with the developers to determine what upgrades are needed. And that's either done through a contribution or a developer agreement that we have at the moment to determine how we would pay for it. But it's done every time for all services.
What's exciting, so.
What this work has helped us understand is that if these growth areas are brought online, where the upgrades are likely to be triggered.
Yeah.
And they've highlighted that for us.
Questions around the bulls? Around bulls? Your worship?
Bulls, O1 and O2, are they two separate titles? Are they an aggregation of titles?
So below one, there are 2 titles.
Yeah.
I can show you on this map. This is part of one title and in separate land ownership.
Yeah.
And then below one, the larger area, which comes kind of through here, is part of a working farm, which is Kilimun. And then below 2 is made up of 3 parcels of land. So one,
Right.
this is the Donotiki Polo Club, a lifestyle block, and then the former race course.
So if I look at that map, first of all, the red area in the corner there, that's commercial.
It's commercially
So
zoned.
that's the vet club, that's
The caravan,
the caravan
vehicle.
park, storage areas and so on.
Mhm.
So my question would be that if you were going to look at increasing the commercial area, we're looking here just at residential. And where else in Bulls could you expand the commercial area? My reticence around those 2 blocks, those 2 titles there, sorry, go to the first one on the other side of the road. Proposed O1. If Bulls was going to grow by several hundred homes, and where else could you have any commercial sector? For instance, if somebody was going to put a second McDonald's or whatever in, it tends to want to have off-road access for the travelling public. And I just wonder whether we should consider the potential futures of commercial and industrial growth while you're making these sorts of decisions.
And that's wise. What I would say in our business in commercial land assessment, Bulls had an oversupply of commercial land. And I would suggest, so if you were interested in rezoning commercial, we would need significant pressure in that space to justify additional zoning of commercial land in Bulls. Yes, it is logical that if you were looking to rezone additional land, you would probably put it alongside where your current commercial zone is. But I wouldn't expect you would need a huge amount of land for that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're not just thinking in isolation
Right,
here
absolutely.
as part of this process.
So through the process of Katrina's community spatial plan, she did do the business and land, commercial land assessment.
So along the lines, in terms of numbers, you're saying that we need another about 16 hectares. And that is on top of
The existing.
the existing developments.
So we have obviously in Bulls, you should be familiar, a significant amount of land that is zoned residential just down Parawinui Road, which is currently undeveloped. We do have a subdivision. I'm unsure if it's been approved on the corner of Parawinui. It's been approved, and Ferry Road. This lot here has been subdivided.
So that was sort of my thinking, whether if we say yes to O3 as a package through from George Street round.
Mhm.
And whether with what's already zoned in Ferry Road, etc., whether we would have enough. Or you're saying we'd still need more?
O3, I'll just check the size. Is 7 hectares. So likely you would need additional, or I would recommend that you would need additional. What I would also question in regards, if that's okay, for O3, I do appreciate that through public forum, I had indicated that flooding in terms of what is shown on our maps is potentially not entirely accurate. We have not had a flood assessment done, and Horizons does have an interest in this particular growth area in relation to flooding. Have signalled that in their discussions with me, so I would recommend that council would do a flood assessment of this lot if they were looking to do below 3.
Questions? Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, so it came late in the piece before, where are the objections, if any, from these three have you had so far?
I would
From landowners?
say, and I'm looking to Katrina so because she had interactions with the growth strategy. My interactions have, I have not heard from these landowners.
Right.
This gentleman here was not opposed, is what I would say. I've heard nothing from the Polo Club. And
I'll be in shock.
the landowner for this portion had indicated that they were interested in some form of development. Obviously, commercial was their preference in terms of what they had indicated. And this landowner here was, I would say, unsure. So he was, they were not opposed, but not necessarily supportive.
Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Further to that, below 1 and below 2 were identified by council staff in the growth strategy work that they were doing, or were they identified by the owners of that land who brought it forward?
Yeah, so through you, Chair, they were identified as part of the community spatial plan process. Yeah.
More thinking needed to be done on this.
I think, Madam Chair, if you're saying that more thinking needs to be done, then you're wisest to be able to say proceed with them.
Yeah.
To me, I think in this instance, the part might be very significant because I wonder whether bulls, for instance, O2, having, because there are various titles there, you may well find that building houses directly opposite Watson Street on the other side of Watson Street could be an advantage. But it would give scope to look at them all. So certainly I wouldn't be taking that.
Any other feedback? We're going to look at this recommendation. Councillor Lambert, is that you putting up your pen saying?
No, I just deep in thought, Madam Chair.
All right, well, we're going to just, we'll read this for recommendation 3. That the committee identifies the following growth areas to continue to be assessed by officers with the intention of proposing them to be rezoned to residential as part of proposed plan change 3 as being Bull 01 and or Bull 02 and or Bull 03. Noting that if the finalisation of technical assessments raises any new issues that could influence the committee's decision making, then officers will bring this back for further consideration. Or, yes.
Just thinking on what Mayor Andy said, do we go part Bull 01 and part Bull 02 for the commercial residential thing?
I don't think, as I said before, I actually don't think you need part because I think that may well happen.
Yeah, okay. That's right.
I'm happy to second Councillor Sharland.
Councillor Charlotte, you're moving the recommendation 3, seconded by Councillor Duncan.
I just confirm that we're taking out all the walls, it's and all 3 of them.
Yep.
Any other feedback from people? So we'll just,
I just think it's a huge area, though. But yeah, that's.
But it's to continue to be assessed.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
Those are the key words.
yeah.
Is it possible for Ms. Gower to provide some comment?
thank you. Thank you.
I would just like to comment on the fact that that is a huge area. It's well in excess of what you need. And we're at a point in this process where it would be really useful for me to have a little bit more, I guess, direction around what particular areas you're interested in me pursuing if you want this plan change to, I guess, continue in a timely fashion.
Right. Yeah.
So can I ask a question then? So does that mean that potentially we just look at two? And I mean, two of these spaces as opposed to three?
Look,
Would be
Madam
useful.
Chair, I'd be happy to move that we discard Bulls 01 and look at Bulls 03 and what may be part of Bulls 02, but we don't know which parts. That's the issue for
So
me.
what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to do that as an amendment.
Okay, even though that wasn't moved and seconded.
So we'll do this amendment because it's more than a technical challenge.
Okay,
So his worship has moved an amendment,
Yeah.
which is,
We probably started at the motion, might pass to the chair.
you don't want to do it as an amendment,
So shadow.
shadow.
I'm taking your advice so that we can be.
Look, you know, who did you have as movers and seconders?
Councillor Charlotte and
And
councillor,
I'll be happy to.
Okay, well, it's up to them as to what they want done.
Yeah, I'd be happy with that.
so is that an addition or of what we've already got on there? Or are we looking at you making
Yeah,
it?
exactly. It hasn't been voted on.
It's up to them as to whether they want to withdraw the motion, not me.
Draw the motion.
Yeah, that's probably the best way.
Yeah. It's the simplest way.
Yeah, we're happy to withdraw that motion.
Thank you, I just want to make sure that we get it right. Now you're going to tell me what we're going to do next. So the recommendation has been withdrawn.
And I would be happy actually moving the recommendation that we proceed with Bulls 03 and Bulls, part of Bulls 02, if you like, and they can work out what parts could be feasible or not feasible.
Okay,
So you need a second on it.
so we need a seconder to his worship's. Thank you, councillor Charlotte. Is that a question or you?
No, second.
Thank you.
And then we'll go back to Andrew to speak.
And then would you like to speak to
Yeah,
the motion,
um,
please?
Now, when staff said that just doing Bulls 03 may not be enough, then that's the logic for looking at a section of Bulls 02. But to do all of Bulls 01, 02, 03 is just far too big an area, and I believe we do have to cut down. I think that Bulls 01 may well be better suited, or parts may be better suited to either commercial or industrial use in the future. So that's my logic in thinking of the split between those two.
Thank you. Or the recommendation,
You look for speakers.
okay, speakers for the motion.
I'll speak in favour of it. Yes, no, it seems a logical conclusion. Yeah, gives staff direction, and it certainly fits within the desired reallocation of land that would be considered in the future and not too distant future towards the Bulls' growth.
Is there anyone against the motion? What?
No need of right or right, nobody's spoken against it, so.
Right. So the recommendation that stands is that the committee identifies the following growth areas to continue to be assessed by officers with the intention of proposing them to be rezoned to residential as part of the proposed plan change 3 as being part Bulls 02 and part Bull 03. noting that if the finalisation of technical assessments raises any new issues that could influence the committee's decision making, then officers will bring this back for further consideration. It's been moved by His Worship the Mayor, seconded by Councillor Sharland. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. We're going to come back to Tiffany, thank you, and we're going to move on to the Mangaweka. Thank you.
Jump straight into, I guess I just wanted to upfront remind, why we landed on Mangaweka still being an option for looking at growth. So probably one of the questions that I came to at the end of last year was around Taihape. I wanted to take the opportunity to say that Taihape was still an area that we wanted to provide for growth. I'm still investigating it from an infill and providing opportunities for infill. But just wanted to reiterate that there was in Taihape an area of land down Rama Road that is nice and flat and makes a lot of logical sense in some ways. But just wanted to remind that the reason that this land was quite challenging was that connection, the only connection into that growth area was from State Highway 1 and across the rail line, and that also it wasn't easily connectable to our wastewater system. So to provide an opportunity for growth, we continued in the northern part of our district, we continued to assess Mangaweka as that option. We do have Mano 1 and Mano 2. It's a significantly larger area, so technically we don't require land in Mangaweka. It's really that you would be making a decision to provide for growth there in lieu of not being able to provide for greenfield growth in Taihape at this time. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Mine wasn't a question, mine was more an opinion, if you like. And Mangaweka, I'll put into a question to help you. Mangaweka 01 is a very wet piece of ground, isn't it?
What I would say, and Arno may have more information than I do, but we lack information or certainty around that. But Ecology, Horizons, and a few others have indicated that it's likely to be a very wet area, and it does have significant drainage going through it.
Yes, just a comment. So the obvious problem there is the railway on the one side and the state highway on the other side that would isolate that piece of land. There would be a number of engineering solutions to resolve that if it's required. I don't think there's a natural spring or anything like that there that causes the problem. It's just going to catch it.
Councillor Lambert?
Oh, no, I was just going to comment. So this is really much just earmarked in case Taihape you can't get any bigger, then you've got to.
So at this point, Taihape, we do need a small amount of land for greenfield in Taihape. It's challenging to find good land to rezone in Taihape, so this is just an alternative for somebody wanting to, I guess, a greenfield development or a greenfield area. But Mangaweka is just an opportunity that you could provide if you wanted to.
We're providing the area. No, that sounds fair.
Councillor Duncan? No?
Well, I'm just looking at it and just thinking that we're probably going to end up with something like Maro 02 or part of Maro 02. In that case, if it's an easier engineering solution from the wet perspective, but then I don't understand. I mean, but if you thought that Maro 2 was Maro 1 was better, but it doesn't look like we need both.
No, that's what I was
Councillor Wong?
Take.
Thank you, sorry.
The perhaps reasons for the water issues in Man 01 would be the catchment area is on the bottom of the hill that leads down into Mangaweka, and drainage on that road is very challenging at rainfall. So in the fact of that, we have got an excess of land and only a limited resources. I would recommend that we concentrate on Man 02 and leave Man 01 at this stage. That would be the direction that I would give for recommendation.
So, anyone got anything else to say about this?
A question to planners.
Mhm.
So O2 is certainly my preference, but within the within the recommendation, could it be conceivable that you have a mixture of rural living zone and residential?
Right.
With a view out over the, I just wonder, if it's sort of a substantial area, and I just wonder whether that may be a better option to look at a combination of the two in some shape or form.
So a couple of things, I would say Man O2 is a larger area than probably you need. And also, yes, my initial thinking at this time, my preliminary thinking at this time is it makes sense that you would do a mixture of providing for residential and a rural lifestyle option. What I would note is in the national direction that's been released from the government is they are flagging the removal of LUC class 3 soils. The land that Man O2 is on is classed as LUC class 3 soils. So if it is removed from the NPS highly productive land from being that classification, then there is an option for us to propose a rural lifestyle zone. If it's not removed, there is no pathway and we would have to remove that, like reconsider that, I guess.
But I just wonder whether somewhere in there to give scope, there should be some subtlety.
Did I understand, was it, and this, I'm really good at mixing up my papers at the moment, but was 1,000 metres versus 400? Were some of the sections we were looking at going to be larger?
So for Martin, I had based my yield on, it was either 650 for our standard residential lot size or 1,000 square metres. And I did that for Maro 7 where I thought it was likely to be a lower density yield. For our current rural lifestyle zone, we allow down to 2 hectares.
Right.
Through this process, I would like us to revisit that, but we need to be quite careful about how we revisit that number.
But a residential block
Can go down
section
to 400.
can go from 400 to 1,000.
It can go from 400 to how big you want it. We
Right.
don't provide a maximum.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson, did you have a question
I
or comment?
agree with everything that the mayor's said.
Can I have that in writing?
I say.
Yeah, no, I think it's logical, it makes sense.
That's great. Councillor Wong, I feel you had indicated that you would
Well,
move a recommendation.
I've been enlightened by his worship. And also the Man O1 being on the school side of the highway has definite plus points for development. So a logical pathway from here would be to develop some properties, a limited number of properties on Man O1 that are least affected by the floodwaters as perhaps smaller housing blocks, and the pursuit of developing maybe lifestyle blocks if the plain chain allows it for the soil types. And the Man O2 I'm not too sure how much direction the staff need from us. Is that enough to?
What I would say, and I'll look to Arno in case he has any additional thoughts, is if you were looking to develop residential in Man O1, I think we would need to do a greater level of investigation around how the water acts in that area. I do agree with the fact that it is close to the school and it's better in that respect, but we don't have any information really to go on in terms of ponding or how water does flow across that site. And I think it could be quite expensive potentially.
Yeah, but I would agree, we would need more work on that.
Well, looking for a recommendation. That'd be to everyone.
Are we happy for that? Councillor Wong, did you have something else to add after listening to what Tiffany has the staff said?
Recommendation. What does it even look like?
Okay, there's 3 of you that want to talk.
Yes.
Councillor
Well, the three want to move, seeking to move the recommendation and that recommendation would be that removal of Man 01 and to continue to work with Man 02.
Can I suggest to the mover that might want to consider that the committee identifies the following growth area to be assessed by officers with the intention of being zoned residential or rural lifestyle.
Happy to have that included, but I thought that had been captured in your earlier question. If you'd like it to be included in the recommendation so that it's captured, then I'm happy to agree.
Just 1 moment, please. So, councillor Wong, tell me what you're thinking?
Well, I did want to see Man 01 abandoned completely because of the school accessibility. So I would be saddened because that is a busy highway, and it would suit. It would be a very suitable area for some limits of housing. So to abandon it may be a bit short-sighted, I feel.
Okay, thank you. You've voiced your opinion. Thank you. We're going to go back to there has been a mover and a seconder to recommendation 4, that the committee identifies the following growth areas to continue to be assessed by officers with the intention of proposing them to be rezoned to residential or rural lifestyle as part of proposed plan change 3 as being Man 02. So it's been moved by councillor Wilson.
Yep, so council Wilson to speak.
Thank you, councillor Wilson.
Yeah, look, quick couple of things, but I just want to address this issue with the school. We have housing in Bulls that travels a further distance across State Highway 3 to get to schooling. Bulls is a difficult intersection. So there is a connectivity problem. If you look at where Man 02 is and when it comes out, you can go left and then right again. I think it can be mitigated if you did suddenly get significant growth in that Man 02 with regards to the school side of things. But I guess I'm probably looking at it from just a practical point of view. If you were sitting up there looking at buying a section in Mangaweka and building in Mangaweka, be it residential or some sort of a lifestyle, look at the topography, look at where the land sits, look at the opportunity to build over the outlook, potentially over the Rangitikei terraces, look at how the sun goes, look at the weather, look at the flat surface, look at the topography of the land. It is possibly where not only will you get the most growth, but from a developer coming in, they could possibly get the most capital gain return on a developer on that site, and that shouldn't be underestimated. So I think it's the most logical place to build, and I think it offers the best opportunity for any future developer to come in and capitalise on the development costs that it would take to put in place. So that's why I think it's the most logical thing to do.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Councillor Lambert?
Yeah, I'll speak in favour of too, sort of echoing councillor Wilson's. While I can see where councillor Wong's coming from, the negatives far outweigh the positives in Man 01. And just for staff's sake, you know, we're taking a hard option. We're getting rid of a difficult option and giving them a more clearer, easier to deal with option with Man 2. So I wholeheartedly endorse the recommendation.
Other speakers, please? For or against?
Speak for. Yep.
Okay,
I think you've had 3 speakers for, so.
okay, well, we're going to read this recommendation. I'll read this.
Not required. Thank you.
Recommendation 4, that the committee identifies the following growth areas to continue to be assessed by officers with the intention of proposing them to be rezoned to residential rural lifestyle as part of proposed plan change 3 is being Man 02. It's been moved by councillor Wilson, seconded by His Worship the Mayor. All those in favour say aye.
Right.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for all of that. Now we're going on to the last one. Recommendation 5. So this recommendation That where the committee has indicated a growth area is no longer to be assessed for inclusion in proposed plan change 3, officers are to inform the landowners within the growth area of this decision.
I'm happy to move.
Moved by His Worship the Mayor, seconded.
Can I ask a question? As of this meeting, after that, they will be notified, despite the fact that no further assessments have been made.
Who's going to answer that question?
Yeah, I can answer it. Yes, the intention of this recommendation is that where areas weren't identified by the committee to do further work, that the landowners would be notified that council has refined the scope of the plan change and their land is no longer in that scope.
This is a recommendation back to council, first point, so that gets relitigated there. But effectively, people need to know where they are. This also doesn't stop a potential private rezoning.
Just could I also make comment just for Councillor Duncan, bearing in mind when we first started this process, there was a huge number of other parcels of land, not what we've just looked at today. That's a refined down from our initial point, but there was parcels all over the place that we'd indicated that were being considered.
Can I ask a question through you, Madam Chair, of His Worship? So from an officer's perspective, we deemed that this refinement was within the scope of this committee, so we weren't intending these recommendations to go to council. But seeking guidance from members if you prefer an alternative process.
If it's been already delegated to this council to make the decision, we make a decision here.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, in terms of the terms of reference, we kind of, from an officer's perspective, I considered that this type of work would be within the scope of that.
Second.
Yeah.
Thank you. So seconded by Councillor Wilson. Is there any other kōrero? Otherwise, I'm going to move it. Thank you.
Sorry. No, this is fine. Go for this one, but I just have a question afterwards. It's something that's bugging me.
Okay, thank you. So that where the committee has indicated a growth area is no longer to be assessed for inclusion in proposed plan change 3, officers are to inform the landowners within the growth area of this decision. It's been moved by His Worship, seconded by Councillor Wilson. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Councillor Duncan.
Can I just go back to, this is something that really jumped out at me. On page 24, there was 4.2 and then 4.5, it talks about a buffer zone, provides a buffer zone as some land within a growth area may be constrained, etc. That's from our possibility of development. But the question that rose in my mind is, from something that Councillor Loudon said as well, is that are we considering a buffer zone in effect for residents or people looking to develop who may need some setback for things like renewable energy, such as solar farms or wind farms or whatever? Are we thinking that with our zoning, we could in effect create or protect our residential dwellers by zoning in such a way that such developments had to be there had to be a setback? Do you see what I mean? Because I think that overseas there are rules around how close these developments can be to residences, but in New Zealand there is very little legislation around protection of residents. And I just, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan.
Well, I think Tiff and I are going to say the same thing, so I'll pass to officers first.
Oh, I was going to say, you speak first. If I need to add anything, I will.
So if you're talking about, for instance, a reasonable scale or even small scale solar farm, they will have to apply for consenting processes in themselves. And one of the conditions could be a buffer zone or setback.
With the fast track process, I believe they don't have to apply for much.
They go through a consent process.
They still do.
Yes. Through the EPA. And they will look at who adjoins, is there a residential dwelling there? Is there a number of residential dwellings there? And they'll look at things like a setback from them potentially, or a shelter belt, or some form of screening. But it all comes down to what the commissioners or the panel consider to be the effects on the neighbour. So they may not
So
recommend
there's
any of
nothing that
that.
council can do.
No.
Interesting, thank you.
It's only through that process though.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a council consent, then we.
And we can put our own
We
conditions.
can go Hans team
Yeah.
process it, and we can consider those things.
We would consider those if it was a private application as opposed to one that's coming from Fast Track.
All right, well, yeah, that's been quite a bit of pulling your head around that. And thank you, Tiffany, for presenting that information for us. We're going to move on to item 10, which is Zane's tomorrow, our economic strategy. Thank you. And thank you. Welcome to the table.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee, and I will take my report as read, but do appreciate that this is your first opportunity to see Rangitikei tomorrow, our economic strategy, after we introduced the plan on a page, strategy on a page at the last committee meeting. I appreciate that it is a 30+ page strategy, and that seeking feedback just on a broad strategy document like that can be somewhat of a challenge when there is a huge amount of information in there. I did just want to take a little bit of time to talk about sort of the sections of the strategy, and then provide an opportunity for questions, and address some questions that have been sort of pre-circulated as well. So within the strategy, the first sort of few pages talk about the background, a little bit around current economic context, and some economic indicators. A large chunk of that information has been derived through stakeholder engagement. With iwi, we also had some sort of industry leaders and sector leader workshops, along with a workshop with councillors as well. We then go through some of the existing work programs that council work on that give effect to economic development in some way, shape or form. An example of which is the conversation that you've just had. We then go through some of the challenges that our district are facing in terms of headwinds, but also the opportunities that exist. And then from sort of page 14 onwards, we talk through the strategy itself. There's a vision, there's goals, there's priorities that has previously been shared with the committee. And then we start to get into the specifics of the strategy and where we've got a priority sitting alongside each goal. We've actually talked to an example. So as an example there on page 16, here we talk about focusing on our strengths. There's actually an example of a business or an organisation out there that is actually doing that, along with an image to support it. And then the final page, 28 to page 33, is the action plan to support that strategy. That's really what are the things that council are going to be able to do as a result of the information that's provided in the strategy. Just with regards to next steps, I think it's important to note here what we're seeking from the committee today. This isn't a statutory document. It's a non-statutory document that requires council to consult with the community, and our recommendation is to not consult. However, the committee may recommend that we do. What we are seeking is feedback and engagement on the strategy through this meeting today, which will then be taken into some work over the next few weeks. We'll then bring it back to the August, I believe it's August, Policy Planning Committee seeking endorsement, which we will then take to council for their consideration. I'll sort of leave it there and open it up if there are any questions on the strategy or any of the work that's gone into the strategy to this point.
Thank you, Jared. Questions?
What's the through your chair, what's the plan to get this sort of document out and shared with other organised? How does it link all back into other agencies and work to feed back in? What's the connection pathway?
Yeah, it's a good question through you, Chair. We will be looking to circulate this back through those who provided engagement through the stakeholder meetings. We've also started to circulate this with iwi as well. Partner organisations who we have some form of working relationship with will also have the opportunity to provide feedback. So as an example, Accelerate 35, the Economic Development Agency meetings that we have, they'll have an opportunity, and we've made sure that we have taken some kind of consideration as to what's happening at a regional level and with some of those partner organisations when we've created this document as well. So we have done some work to make sure that there is alignment, and where there is alignment, that those connections are made.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yes, so on page 33, I just think that Rangituki business sector leaders, elected members, I'd really like to see the industrial hub be referred to there. I know it is referred to later in the document, but I think having it sitting there fairly early in a document, because people reading through this sort of stuff, you want to come across that earlier rather than later. The other thing, and this is a discussion that very wise Councillor Duncan brought up, is there's almost a criticism of the agricultural sector by way of its lack of diversification, rather than saying we are the powerhouse of red meat, etc., and primary production for New Zealand, that we punch way above our weight in terms of that scale. And I think we should stress that as much as we possibly can. And sure, it could be diversified, but that's a secondary thing. Where I think in Councillor Wilson's comments around how does this tie in, there are risks, first of all, that this sits on a shelf. But also you can tie it into Accelerate 35 and adopt it through those processes as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Wong.
It's a great report, Jared. And I so agree with the sentiment of it, but one of the specifics of it, like on page 25, you've got the tourism opportunities include further research regarding accommodation opportunities and shortages. Further research and the tourism requires funding, and is there a specific I mean, this is a very general thing, but the council very wisely chose to keep their funding to stuff like that to a minimum, because as opposed to increased rates. So the cycle track that was asking for money for a feasibility study fitted this to a T, but it was denied funding through council for the reason of fiscal responsibility. So we seem to be saying one thing in the report, but doing something totally different. So what would you say to anyone else who actually come to you and said, you know, we would like to do this, but how does council, what distance can we find? Do you have anything in mind?
Yeah, through you, Chair, just to provide a little bit of thought from officers on this, is you'll see a lot of the actions talk about investigate. That investigation will also include at times, if there is an opportunity for us to explore further, is how does that get funded? And not everything is able to be funded through council, and that is you need to be able to decide and prioritise which things you do want to do and don't want to do. And through that investigation, it might be that there's alternative funding streams to be able to do that work, whether that's private or whether that is through funds that are available. And as tourism as an example, without getting specific, there are funds that are being made available to encourage tourism, especially with the direction that's coming from central government in regards to tourism. There's also a piece around various people within the organisation who work on within their work plans will have budgets that are already allocated to some of the stuff that lives within here. So as an example, you know, the plan change that you've gone through today, while there is benefit to that from an economic development perspective, there's no funding required to be able to do that within the strategy because it's already part of someone's existing work program, work plan. Does that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, councillor Sharlin.
Chair, this through you, Madam Chair, it's a great document. I just had a look through it quickly, but should there be anything in here about emergency preparedness? Or not?
Through you, Chair, and I might defer this to Joanna. It's not a space that I work in directly.
Okay.
In regards to emergency preparedness, is there something that you like to comment on?
Through you, Madam Chair, it just depends in what sense we look at emergency preparedness. So through the Chief Executive, we are looking at an independent review of that portion of our business through a consultant. How that fits into a strategy like this is most probably outside of that scope at the moment.
Yeah, and that's all right. Yeah, I just wondered whether it should be in here or not, but no, that's fine.
Councillor Lehman.
Yeah, what Mayor Andy sort of touched on, I agree, like a lot of reports, I mean, this is like a very good report, but like for established hill country farming, there's not a lot you can diversify with, like it's sort of, you need to diversify, it's almost like becomes a generic term, farmers diversify, but you can sort of come from the angle that they're long established farms that are very, very good at what they do, you know, like there's sort of diversification into tourism. And those things, which is very good, and that's something that could be encouraged. That's very good. But as it's just going forward, the Rangitaki is always going to be a primary productive area, as that's its bedrock, and so you know we sort of need to more evolve other areas as we can. But no, very good report. If I didn't live here, I'd move here.
Moving away.
No, I know. Quite council don't.
Carry on the kiwi
fruit.
We're going to say something.
We're going to do this.
So yes, so thank you, Andy and councillor Lambert. My turn. For saying that about the agricultural sector, and I did look at the percentages you've got in here, and it says 30% for ag, fishery and forestry, and I would suggest that ag is the largest bit of that. Given the farming bashing that we've had over the last 10 years, because it's all our fault, I wonder if in page 9 of your report, where it says advocate, it should say something about supporting core business or advocating for, because there are a number of things that are coming down the line with local government that we could actually have a voice to support our core business. It would just be something I thought about, and on Councillor Wong's note, it's page 4 of your report, the right-hand column where it says diversification of the economy, growing our tourism offering or increasing manufacturing capabilities, etc. That just really just smacked of the fact that we have had, you know, a local business come to us and want to diversify, a local group wanting to diversify and put in cycleways, and there was just absolutely no support. So I wonder how aspirational this is. It's a tiny typo on the other side. And then once again, River Valley jumps out, empowering talented teams on page 5, right-hand column, bottom of the first paragraph. Empowering talented teams to lead the strategic priorities. Really unfortunate. So those were the two main ones for me. Apart from that, I thought it was a great report and it's really interesting, especially page. What is that? Page 37. What's that one? Page 8 of the report. Those facts and figures are awesome. I wondered if on page 10 you've got events, so that's this fourth one down. I wonder if MOUs with town committees, etc., should be noted. I don't know if that's something.
Thank you for the feedback, Councillor, Your Worship, and then I'm going to come to you.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at our economy and you know, for instance, tourism is always seen as a very big player by data. The reality is, I'm sorry, it's not. And I've been involved in the tourism sector. I've derived an income and a lifestyle from it, etc., etc. This includes the amount of money that's spent at petrol stations. This includes the number of people that are employed at petrol stations. And it's seen as contributing to, they are literally passing through as quickly as they can. I always think that yes, we can do far more, but it's overstated. It's just what it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just Councillor Charlotte's comment, I take that on board actually. If our house is not in order in how we will react to emergencies, it means we could cut ourselves off from economic development for a very long time. And I think it's worth a mention, Jared, somewhere that we will pay special attention to how we deal with emergencies to be sure we don't exclude ourselves from economic development for extended periods. And I think it's a good comment. And then the other one about diversifying with agriculture, I think something we need to keep in the mix in a document like this is alternative food sources into the future and what that looks like, and how do we be sure that our farming community is in front of all of that, so we don't get caught out 15 years down the line. There's a new way of producing a steak, and we're completely out of the market.
Thank you, Councillor.
Can I just say something to that? I think that where the alternative food sources are going to come from is not the rangatiki, because what we do at the top of our game internationally. So the alternative meat will come out of Wellington. It'll come out of Christchurch or Auckland.
What if the profits are 3 times?
Pardon?
What if your profit margins are 3 times as much? Would you not want to pay attention to it?
We're still going to produce quality, not crap.
I think we've drifted off.
Yes, anyway, that's my, thank you. Thanks.
Staying out of that.
Councillor Lambert, did you have a comment or did you?
No, I'm just trying to reiterate. I know what you're saying, Arno, but like if you're a hill country farmer, you're pretty limited. You can have sheep and cattle on your hills, and that's, I know what you're saying. If a new wang dang animal comes along, like deer for example, you can start farming deer, but it's sort of running. You know, it's almost like the low-hanging fruit's being picked with hill country farming. Like it's you're limited to sort of, you're not all of a sudden gonna, you know, and this is golden, them there hills. There's not a lot more that you can do with it.
If I may, through you, Madam Chair, just to make some comment as to where this has come from, because there's a huge amount of work that has gone into some of this to be able to derive up where these priorities have come from. And please don't take it as a document that says we aren't strong in farming or that we could be doing better, because that's not what this is saying at all. We recognise that we are a very, very strong district of farming, and our farming practices are very strong. There are opportunities, and that's what's come out of this work so far, is there's opportunities where appropriate, and that's probably the piece that I'll take away from this, is where it's appropriate that we should be investigating and helping find pathways to assist in becoming, whether there is diversification, and that will help build a resilient district. If you think about when one sector is not performing so well, if you are heavily invested in that sector, you are actually at more risk of a downturn. But when you've got more diversity across your economy, one sector might not be performing well, but if the other four or five are doing very well, then you're more resilient. You can continue to provide the jobs you need for people to live here, to then go and do their spending in town, and there's a bit of confidence and vibrancy that continues. So I'll take on board the feedback, and part of that might be just a little bit around tone, and appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. We're actually going to stop, but before we do, I'd like to have a comment specifically around farming. I'm going to be happy for the day that I'm able to walk into any supermarket in Taihape, or anywhere that has any type of meat that comes from this area. Because I would say that none of it that's sold locally in this, and then that's been produced here in this area is sold in a supermarket. So I'm just saying. It would be very good if we're able to, if the local people that live in this community are able to buy it for whatever reason. So I believe we're not finished.
We'll just receive the report.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to can I have a mover to receive our report, please? Thank you, Councillor Duncan, seconder. Thank you, Councillor Charlton. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. We are going to stop for 10 minutes. Oh, well, welcome back. Everyone that may be online that are following this week. We're going to continue on. We have a move, we've finished with kōrero around our economic update. I'd like a mover for the recommendation that the report economic update is received. His Worship the Mayor is moving that. A seconder, please. Councillor Duncan. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Just so that we haven't done that one yet. So that's where we're up to start that.
Sorry, apologies. Old age.
It's fine to reset.
Okay, we're still staying with Jared. Sorry, Jared.
It's okay, it's okay. So just in providing a little bit of oversight in regards to where the district is at currently economically, you'll see there I call out the quarterly economic review that we put out. That data is always about 6 to 8 weeks behind by the time it is collated. So just last week we released the March data. Some of the insights there that are shared I'll sort of take as read, but are there any questions just relating to that section before I sort of move on to some of the other sections?
Questions? Comments?
Just a nice comment that we're doing well compared to the national scheme.
Thank you.
That we're following with.
I would say on the back of current farming returns, this is, we've got a great, the bedrock's laid. I think that the next report will even be more pleasing to the eye.
Any other comments? Thank you.
Just moving on to an update about Business Rangitikei. So the BA5 events continue. Their plate is full all the way through for the rest of 2025, which is fantastic to see. In terms of their schedule, there is another one in a week today on Thursday, their midwinter event. I did just want to acknowledge that the MOU that we have between Council and Business Rangitikei was due for renewal at the start of April. There's no reason for the delay other than that Business Rangitikei have gone through a new committee process just recently. So that's nearly completed. It hasn't caused any issue with regards to their delivery. They continue to do a very good job for us out in the district. I do think it is worth just taking some time to acknowledge in Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, the outstanding work that our consultant is doing in that space. James Towers Consultants Limited continue to perform very, very well. They are the best performing provider, and our district is the best performing district in the country in terms of placements. Have been for some time and continue to be. The revisions to the program that have been previously discussed in their final stages of being finalised. The key changes, I did just want to highlight those for the committee. A clear focus on working with young MSD clients. That is a real shift where previously we were working with NEETs who are not in employment, education, training. This is a shift to MSD clients, which means they are currently on a job seeker benefit. And 80% of our placements going forward need to be people 18 to 24 getting off benefit. There is an aspect here where 70% of those placements have to be off benefit for 6 months or longer to become what's considered sustainable under the program. And this coming year, our goal is 35 placements, of which 30 will be young people on benefit getting off benefit.
I'd just like to say that we have always looked at who needs a job. So yes, the rest of the country has looked at specifically needs, where we've taken the opportunity just to certainly engage with needs as a prime source. But out of those conversations comes the need for somebody else to get a job. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're in a fairly strong position going forward. Our current data would say that we're going to comply with the new regulations probably fairly comfortably. that's not going to be the case for a number of other councils, and we've recently had 4 or 5 councils withdraw. And I am in Wellington as of 9 o'clock in the morning for a day with a core group of Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. But our success in that space opens up, I suspect, some other opportunities for us to receive other government money. I've had some preliminary discussions with Jared and Katrina. I think things that we can explore, but it gives us credence in terms of government, and even in things like health and housing. We listen to because of our success.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to the town centre better off funding work. So just in Bulls there, just a congratulations to the team that have completed that mural. And I thought with how impressive that mural is, to share a picture of that. If you're in Bulls or driving through and get the opportunity to stop and have a look, it is phenomenal. It's good.
Just one comment, Jared, and when Jared said go and have a look at it, go and have a close look, because within those tents, you'll see pictures of horses and people. It's amazing what this guy's done. It's just mind blowing.
I did go to the Blessa thing the other day.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that after the 29th of June, the town centre will look a little bit different.
Right, Councillor Duncan, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, I did, sorry. Who funded the mural?
So that was funded through the Better Off funding that we received for town centre revitalisation focused on wayfinding and placemaking. In regards to Bulls, the rubbish bins have been refurbished and are now all in place and are looking fantastic. Additional wayfinding signage has been proposed and is aimed to be completed in August 25, just with some the old road signs that have been taken down, or the Bull signs that look like road signs, so they're being replaced as well. And as a result of being able to deliver some of the stuff under budget, we do have an opportunity to explore additional works on that corner opposite to Matapihi, and some preliminary work is going on in that space. In regards to Taihape, the first draft of the map has been circulated internally and is then going to go out to the community for input. There is work that has already begun at the outback or gumboot throwing area. That's work that's been done in conjunction between council staff and Taihape Area School, which is a fantastic initiative pulled together by the project team looking after that. And initial conversations have begun around disc and frisbee golf to support in that area as well. Once a plan is in place, we will share information on that. Are there any other questions? Otherwise, that's...
No, thank you for that, Jared. Excellent. No recommendation has already been done. I can move on to 10.3 for a recording update. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Take that the report as read. Just happy to go through a few highlights in the report, and happy to receive any questions. Just in terms of no update unfortunately in the termination, so still waiting patiently on MB to progress on that matter. In terms of impacts in the building area, so recently we heard that while the bill is out for final consultation now in terms of the granny flats, with the aim still to have that piece of legislation in place by early 2026. In terms of the building sector across the New Zealand at the moment, still quite a large downturn, especially in new houses. So 23.1% of total consented value, down from the previous year. However, in our district, we seem to still be bucking the trend. We nowhere near when in the consenting figures that we were 2 years ago when the boom was high, but we are still increasing in consents from the previous year to this year. So there's still a bit of a upturn for us. And I was just anticipating perhaps a question of if we're looking at just new houses. So in 2024, we roughly had 31 new builds. I'm not talking about relocating. I'm talking about total new builds of houses on the specific property. And currently, with just half the year gone, we're looking at 13 houses so far. So on track to meet that figure or close to it again. What is interesting, and it was mentioned earlier, part of that is the 15 units is additional to the 13 new built houses that will be built in Bulls as part of the motel. So if you count that, and we're looking at about 28 already for our area. And then I just, as per the C's request, just giving you the two graphs again to highlight our consents in terms of received, issued, and CCCs. And you can see we're still trending ahead of what we did last year this time. Last one, just in terms of accreditations, I'm happy to announce that we've received accreditation again. So we remain accredited for the next 2 years. And I do know that there was some questions raised as in terms of last time with the action plan and what are systems involved behind that. So I thought I would just give a bit more information to the committee as to what sits behind those 18 regulations that we've got to constantly maintain and keep up to date with. And hopefully it explains it sufficiently enough, but I'll just comment a little bit more on that. So business as usual, issuing the consents every day and making sure that we've got our processes in place and that we have annual checks in place. And this is basically our own internal audits, of which I just made a note, basically almost 378 different things that we look at across 42 internal audits, specifically in that. That all gets collated and it gets put into a strategic review, of which the chief executive is then part and parcel of that yearly review. And that includes workflows, workforce numbers of consents and predicted consents for the working year. So hopefully that gives the committee a little bit more of understanding when you look at the certificate that's outside His Worship's office or Carol's office. That's what that certificate entails for us to be able to continue a function as a building consent authority. So happy to take any questions if they are.
Well, one very quickly, thank you for the explanation around the what sits behind the processes, because it may have been something that came from me. But number 3, particularly around the granny flats, remote inspection, self-certifying. Understand as you've got further report that's expected to be through to early 26, which in reality is not very long away. Whose responsibility is it, or is it likely to be, under the determination of ME, to get the messaging out as to what that actually entails? Because there's a big risk of misinterpreting what that. It's a bit like when they said you could build something for 30 square meters. They thought you could just knock it up with chicken mesh wire and you're going to be fine. So does that become a council responsibility? Is a government MB responsibility, or how do we get that message out?
it becomes a bit of both, Madam Chair. So once it's in legislation, we will still have some guidance on our website as we have for our information section, and that will refer them to Schedule 1, where that exemption is. But as the bill is at the moment, there's still some other requirements that they're working through to finalise. So council for one will still play a role in advising people if they come to council. And at this stage, the proposal is that they may ask for PIM, so project information memorandum. And through some of the submissions, they've requested that must, so that council is aware of that something is happening and something is being built. So it has still got a bit to go, but at the end of the day, knowing MB, it will become a twofold information.
Just when it comes out, people will read further, Chair. Just maybe that some stage in early 26 we come to, we might need to get some comms around this, guiding any prospective body thinking about it, to check in with the website and just get some guidance in that space.
100%.
Avoid any misinterpretation about what's what.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
On page 70, the complaint of structure in the Taipi West slip zone. I take it that's a building that has not reached code. Do these investigations come about because of a complaint from the public, or is that how it reads? That's how it reads to me. Is that correct? And it's gone to MB for negotiation now, for determination.
Well, the determination was taken out by the owners of the property, because they are saying that what they've constructed on that property is exempt under Schedule 1. We're saying to them, as Councillor Wilson has pointed out now, that no, you've misinterpreted Schedule 1. You've got to meet all the conditions before it becomes exempt. So they still disagree with that. So we've gone to MB as a adjudicator to say who has interpreted Schedule 1 correctly.
Just one more question. How many cases do we have to take to MB for determination on average? Is this an exception, or is that quite common?
At this stage, we must probably have one every year or two every year, so not many. The problem with determinations at the moment is where it normally is turned around within 3 months, some of them are taking up to 2 years. So it is a long process, unfortunately. And in the meantime, with the determination being looked into by MB, we can't exercise any of our powers. Everything just gets placed on hold. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Duncan?
Just one little question about the self-certifying. I did hear National Radio talking about how building companies basically could become certifiers, could become regulators, rather than councils. I'm assuming this is so new, we don't have that happening in Rangatike at the moment, but what happens when and if that happens? Do we then step away? It's not our responsibility, and that business become the regulator and council has no part, or how do we do that?
Through you, Madam Chair. So there is a outfit that has recently been or has achieved accreditation down in the South Island, so they can process and inspect. And so the choice then will go to the customer because they are a recognised BCA. So the customer will have a choice as to where they go to, but the liability sits with that BCA.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah, this, some of this is under the reform of their RMA and LATs, so it's not enacted yet. But the minister's direction has been to say that a reputable building company, and who knows exactly what reputable actually means at this stage, will be able to self-certify. But the liability will not be passed on to councils. But until we actually see what the Act finally is passed at.
I think Johan's right. I think there is one that has actually passed it.
Yeah, but they did it through a different pathway, is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, I think we're talking about two different concepts. The one is that certifiers, just as in terms of electrical workers, that they self-certify their own work without it being needing to be inspected by BCA. And the talks are also that plumbers will be able to self-certify their work, but the instance down south is that this organisation is actually a recognised BCA, the first private BCA in the country to be able to do building consents and inspection work.
The speech that the minister gave indicated more than just individual recognition to trades. They gave recognition to reputable companies per se. But I think there have been two different pathways for the company down south.
Yeah.
Because they've gone through, but who knows where this is actually going to end up.
Yeah, so you're correct, Your Worship. So when I'm talking about trades, it includes builders, so they can self-certify their own work as well, like the other trades. Yep.
Any more comments, any more questions for Johan's report? If there is no any more questions, just thank you for your report, Johan. Can I have a mover that the regulatory update report be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Lambert, seconded Councillor Sharland. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Yeah, who have we got? Next, strategy plan development and review update. Oh, thank you.
I'll take this report as read. The strategy and plans register or list is attached. And I just wanted to highlight, I'll move through these pretty quickly. The waste management and minimisation plan has been adopted. The economic wellbeing strategy, Jared provided, Mr. Corcoran, provided his update earlier. Annual plan, we are all versed in where that is at in its process and will be brought back to council at the end of the month for adoption. And plan change 3, I think we've covered enough of that today, but happy to take any questions about any of those or any of the other strategies and plans on the list.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Duncan, was that you putting
No,
that
no,
up?
sorry.
All right.
Oh gosh, I'm just checking. See where my scribbles are.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like we've got any questions or comments. Any comments? No, if not, then we're going to recommend that the report, strategy, plan development and review update be received. Move it, please. Thank you, Councillor Wong. Seconded by Councillor Sharland. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Now, policy and bylaw work program update. That's Jenna. Welcome to the table, Jenna. We'll leave it up to you to take us through this next part.
Thank you. So at the last meeting, I brought to you a review of the water related services bylaw. So currently working on drafting up the amendments based on that discussion there, so that it will be brought to council in the future. And the Mulcahy Bridge bungee jumping bylaw that we have been talking about a lot lately, that's finally been revoked under the legislation, so it's now been removed from our bylaw, from our website. Since our last meeting, we've had 3 policies adopted by council, and there are a number of policies currently being worked on by staff. Happy to take any questions on any of that.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Your worship. All right. Okay, thank you, Jenna, for that, for your report. So our recommendation is that the report, policy and bylaw work program update be received. Move it, please. Thank you, councillor Lambert. Seconder. Thank you, councillor Duncan. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Discussion items. We're on to Ellen.
So Ms. Gower will take us through this item.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. Mhm.
I will move through this pretty quickly, but effectively we are all aware that national direction packages 1 and 3 are out. And I thought I would just briefly touch on for your own information what each package kind of covers. So effectively the purpose of package 1, which is infrastructure and development, is to better enable infrastructure and development where they are needed and where they can be developed safely while appropriately managing effects on people and the environment. There's a couple of things that this package is trying to achieve, and effectively it's in terms of what the government is putting across in their package consultation is to better support a fit for purpose infrastructure coordinated with development that meets long-term needs of people, community and environment. To enable opportunities and choicing for housing for a range of people, and to develop or to support the development of areas and reduce risk to people and communities from a natural hazard perspective. What this all means in terms of what they're proposing as part of the package is they're looking to introduce 4 new national direction instruments, including 2 new national policy statements, 2 new national environmental standards. The package also proposes to amend 4 national direction instruments which are existing, being 2 national policy statements and 2 national environmental standards. The instruments are quite varied in terms of the range for this package. They cover infrastructure, renewable energy, electricity generation and transmission, telecommunications, housing and natural hazards. So it's quite broad in terms of the package. I kind of lump them into 2 lots. So what's coming through this package in terms of what's new is a new national planning, national policy statement for infrastructure, a national environmental standard for Greenie Flats, which aligns with what Johan's just touched on for the changes to the Building Act, a new national environmental standard for Papakāinga housing, and a new national policy statement for natural hazards. And then there's also a bunch of amendments coming through, which largely relates to renewable electricity generation, electricity transmission, electrical networks is what it's now being rephrased as, and then also telecommunication facilities. That's package 1. Package 2 is effectively primary sector. This package aims to recognise that the primary sector is a key part of our economy, society and heritage. It intends to reduce inflexibility in the current system and to better provide for innovation in the primary sector. What it covers is it proposes to amend 5 existing national direction instruments, being the National Environmental Standard for Marine Aquaculture, National Environmental Standard for Commercial Forestry, the New Zealand Coastal Policy Statement, the National Policy Statement for Highly Productive Land, and then the Stock Exclusion Regulations. And then it also has some subsequent amendments that specifically relate to mining and quarrying, to kind of in the provisions that I've listed there, which is the Indigenous biodiversity, highly productive land, freshwater management. It's basically making amendments to those as well to provide consistency for how they treat mining and quarrying. And then just lastly, the 3rd package, which is currently out for consultation, is freshwater. What I would say is this focuses in on our national policy statement for freshwater management and the environmental standard. This package is actually, so it's more conceptual. They're kind of asking a lot more questions of what we think, and they're seeking direction. And as I understand it, in terms of what they've indicated, is the government intends to come back with an exposure draft, depending on what people put forward as part of their response to this package. What this all means is there's a whole bunch of information. It's a significant package, and effectively what it's working as is an interim step between our current national direction and how it's operating and where we're moving with the RMA reform. It is a significant package, or packages, shall I say, for us to get our heads around. And we're working on the assumption that council would like to submit on that package, that we're currently aware of anyway. There is a full package coming. And also just whether or not you wanted, how you wanted to kind of progress with that application. I don't know if you want that. I'm working, well, we're hoping that a working group would be recommended. Is what we're seeking direction on.
Thank you. Councillor Huckam.
First of all, can we have those slides? That would be fabulous, thank you. And is it fair to say that package 3 is much more, even though it says it's consultation, it's actually engagement? They're asking for engagement.
So they are asking for engagement. They've got a number of questions and they're seeking advice. And from that, I guess they're testing the waters. And from that, they will come back to us with their amendments, a more formal idea of their amendments anyway.
Questions, comments? Worship.
Yeah, I suggested to, I've had a discussion with Carol around this and a little bit of a discussion with Tiff, but the reality is we're incredibly unwise to try and do this as all of council.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you're going to get councillors that can't afford the time, nor can they afford the time to literally read it and understand it. There's going to be a hell of a lot of learnings in this. And I said that the only way that we could consider doing it is by way of people dedicated to it. I think if I look ahead, whoever is on council next term, there will be an absolute need to split council up into delegations to work on all sorts of packages, because otherwise we'll never sustain it. The workload going forward is huge. And I made a comment in Palmerston the other day at Mayoral Forum, where there was a comment almost from the MPs in the room to say, you finally ticked the box, you've got over the decisions for local water done well. And I'm thinking, get real, you over hurdle one, and there's 50 other hurdles ahead of you just in local water done well. This is another one that will be of that similar sort of magnitude. I would suggest, certainly I am interested in being on it, but it's going to need more than me, and I think it's also going to be impact on a number of staff.
Mayor, are you, by talking about the upcoming elections, are you suggesting that, well, do we have the time to wait in this space, or is it something that's got to be worked on immediately?
I think you need to start working on it now.
Yeah, so submissions close the end of July.
Thank you.
But that's only step one. There'll be a whole lot of other steps in this space.
Comments?
Certainly there's a lot to get through.
Yes, Councillor
I'll
Wilson.
just note that you're looking for a group of elected members to be part of it, but there are a number of elected members that are not here. So I'm just wondering how we could cover that without. I agree with what His Worship the Mayor is saying, and I understand the importance of perhaps a smaller working group of councils to work alongside the staff to be nimble and articulate this and delegating it to a smaller group to do, because it is an incredibly important document. But we just have a number of councillors that aren't here now that may be well suited to this space. I just wonder how we could possibly capture that. We may be able to make some recommendations here subject to their acceptance. And I'm not just sure how to do that, but I would seek a bit of guidance or even a suggestion from His Worship the Mayor how that may work.
Yeah, I could, unless His Worship wants to go first.
Okay, method.
I guess I could suggest two options for that. The first one is if you want to do it as part of the CE report for the council meeting, you could do it as part of today, or you could just leave it for the council meeting at the end of the month. The benefit of, if there's anyone in the room today that wants to be part of it, is that knowledge 2 weeks. You could be doing work 2 weeks in advance, so it could form part of the CE report to delegate a working group. The other potential option, which is slightly less formal, is that His Worship generally has delegation to appoint members to committees, that members interested in being on the working group could express their interest to him directly.
Yeah, look, first of all, we can't make a decision today. So I think that it is open for everybody to have access to read the information. But it would be useful if people that were interested let me know.
I'd indicate my interest in being involved in a working group to get a greater understanding of some of these changes. They are significant.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Duncan?
Just to say that I have read quite a lot of it already, and it is absolutely vital that we do submit on it, and I'm interested in it, but I also wonder if you could cut down the number of eligible people just by saying that if you're not standing again, you're out. To give the potential of continuity. Who knows what, I'm just saying that is perhaps a sensible, which would take me out of it.
I had actually thought of that, and because I would treat it, if you want to be part of it and you've done some of the reading, I'd say yes. Your knowledge going into it, and bearing in mind that it is this term of office, but I would like to see people and also on it that are going to continue in this sort of space. And who knows, everybody could have voted out.
Or it's been taken off the table, the recommendation anyway.
These decisions.
So the recommendation would be that
Probably expressions of interest unofficially to my office would be useful for staff to be able to work with.
Could a message go to the councillors that aren't present
Absolutely.
to be included otherwise?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So if you are interested, I suggest you email me a CC in Katrina rather than either or. Yeah, so that they can then get further information out to you and so on.
Excellent. Any more comments or anyone putting their hands up? No. Well, we know what the process is for those of us that are around the table. And so the last recommendation for the day is that the report proposed changes to national direction under the Resource Management Act 1991 be received. Moved by Councillor Duncan, seconded by Councillor Sharman. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Thank you for the report.
We'll come to that's carried. So we've come to the end of this meeting. Just want to thank everyone for, this feels like the longest policy and planning meeting we've had for a while. But just thank everyone for their input. And I'm going to close this with karakia. He inoi tātou, kia tau, kia tātou katoa. Te atuwhai o tō tātou araki a ihi karaiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga, ki te wairua tapu, moake, aki. Amen.